In the middle of the 20th century, something shifted in the American psyche. The post-war era had brought about a new kind of prosperity, but with it came a restless desire for something more than just reliable transportation. Americans wanted speed, they wanted style, and they wanted a soundtrack of roaring V8 engines to accompany their newfound freedom. This was the birth of the muscle car, a uniquely American phenomenon that didn't just change the automotive industry, it reshaped our culture, our geography, and our identity on the world stage. To understand where this all began, we have to look back to 1949. While the 1960s are often cited as the golden age, the blueprint was actually drafted by Oldsmobile with the Rocket 88. By taking their most powerful engine, the high-compression Rocket V8, and dropping it into the lighter, smaller chassis of the 76 series, Oldsmobile accidentally created a monster. It dominated the early NASCAR circuits and became a symbol of post-war optimism. It proved that the American public had an insatiable appetite for power-to-weight ratios that favored the power side of the equation. However, the spark that truly ignited the muscle car revolution didn't arrive until 1964. At the time, General Motors had a strict internal policy. No mid-sized car could have an engine larger than 330 cubic inches, but John DeLorean, the chief engineer at Pontiac, wasn't one for following the rules. He and his team realized that if they offered a larger engine as an option package rather than a base model, they could bypass the corporate ban. The result was the Pontiac GTO. Named after the Ferrari 250 GTO, a move that was as arrogant as it was brilliant, the Pontiac GTO featured a 389 cubic inch V8 that churned out 325 horsepower. It was raw, it was loud, and it was affordable. When the GTO hit the streets, it didn't just sell, it exploded. It created a roadmap for every other Detroit automaker. The formula was simple. Take a sensible family car, stuff it with the biggest engine in the warehouse, add some hood scoops and bucket seats, and sell it to a generation of young drivers who are ready to go fast. The success of the GTO sent Ford, Chevrolet, and Chrysler into a developmental frenzy. This era became known as the horsepower wars. Every year, the numbers got bigger, the designs got bolder, and the competition moved from the showroom floor to the drag strip. Ford's response was characteristically massive. While the Mustang had already created the pony car segment in early 1964, it was Carroll Shelby who turned it into a true performance legend. In 1965, the Shelby 335 arrived, stripped of its rear seats and tuned for the track. But for many, the ultimate expression of this partnership was the 1967 Shelby GT500. Underneath its elongated, aggressive fiberglass hood sat a 428 cubic inch Police Interceptor V8. It was a refined brute, a car that could cruise comfortably at highway speeds but melt its rear tires the moment you stepped on the gas. It represented a shift in muscle car design towards something more sophisticated, yet no less dangerous. Meanwhile, over at Chevrolet, the rivalry was reaching a boiling point. The Camaro had been launched in 1967 to take down the Mustang, but by 1969, things had escalated into the realm of the extreme. The 1969 Camaro ZL1 is perhaps the most mythical of all Camaros. It wasn't even supposed to exist. Through a backdoor ordering system known as COPO, Central Office Production Order, a handful of savvy dealers managed to order Camaros equipped with an all-aluminum 427 engine designed for Can-Am racing. These cars were essentially street-legal race cars, producing well over 500 horsepower in a package that weighed less than a standard big block. Only 69 were ever built, making the ZL1 a holy grail for collectors today. As the 1960s drew to a close, the muscle car era reached its absolute peak of insanity. This was the era of the aero wars in NASCAR. To gain an edge on the high-speed superspeedways, manufacturers began producing cars with radical wind tunnel-tested aerodynamics. The 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona and its brother, the 1970 Plymouth Superbird, were the most shocking examples. With their pointed nose cones and massive 2-foot-tall rear wings, they looked more like fighter jets than family sedans. These cars were so fast that they were eventually banned from NASCAR for being too dangerous, but they remain a testament to a time when American engineers were allowed to chase speed at any cost. While Mopar was focusing on aerodynamics, Chevrolet was focusing on displacement. In 1970, the General Motors 400 cubic inch limit was finally lifted, and the engineers at Chevy didn't waste a single second. They took the Chevelle SS and stuffed it with the LS6 454 engine. This beast produced a factory-rated 450 horsepower, though many believe the actual number was much higher. It was arguably the king of the street. With its iconic racing stripes and cowl induction hood, the 1970 Chevelle SS 454 was the physical embodiment of the muscle car. Heavy, intimidating, and capable of a sub-14-second quarter mile right off the dealership lot. Not to be outdone, Plymouth unleashed what many consider the most beautiful muscle car ever made, the 1970 Hemi Cuda. It was a perfect storm of design and engineering. The shaker hood, so named because the air intake was bolted directly to the engine and vibrated through a hole in the hood, became an instant icon. With the legendary 426 Hemi engine underneath, the Cuda was a force of nature. It was expensive and rare, but it cemented Plymouth's reputation for building cars with rapid transit performance. Even Buick, a traditionally associated brand with luxury and comfort for the older generation, joined the fray. The 1970 Buick GSX Stage 1 proved that luxury didn't have to be slow. Its 455 cubic inch V8 produced a staggering 510 pound-feet of torque, a record in American production cars that would stand for decades. It was a gentleman's muscle car, finished in Saturn yellow or Apollo white, capable of embarrassing almost anything else on the road while providing a much smoother ride. The muscle car wasn't just about the machines, though. It was about what they represented. In the 1960s, a car was a statement of intent. It was about win on Sunday, sell on Monday. The performance of these cars on the track directly influenced their success in the showroom. This culture birthed a massive aftermarket industry, with names like Hurst, Edelbrook, and Holley becoming household words. It created the cruising culture, where towns across America saw their main streets filled with the rumble of V8s every Saturday night. However, the golden age couldn't last forever. By the early 1970s, the world was changing. The introduction of the Environmental Protection Agency in 1970 brought about new emission standards that forced manufacturers to lower compression ratios. Insurance companies, seeing the rising accident rates associated with high-powered machines, began skyrocketing premiums for anything with a performance badge. The final blow came in 1973 with the global oil crisis. Suddenly, cars that got 8 miles to the gallon weren't just impractical, they were social pariahs. Lines at gas stations stretched for blocks, and the era of no replacement for displacement came to a grinding halt. One by one, the legends were retired or detuned until they were shadows of their former selves. The high-compression engines were replaced by catalytic converters, and the bold styling was sacrificed for safety bumpers. But the story of the American muscle car didn't end in the 70s. It just went into hibernation. The spirit of those early pioneers lived on in the hearts of enthusiasts who refused to let the fire go out. Throughout the 1980s, cars like the Buick GNX and the Fox Body Mustang kept the flame flickering, proving that performance could still exist even in a more regulated world. Today, we're living through a second golden age. Modern technology has allowed manufacturers to produce horsepower figures that would have seemed like science fiction to the engineers of the 1960s. We have cars with over 800 horsepower that can be driven daily with air conditioning and modern safety features. But as impressive as these modern machines are, they all owe their existence to the iron giants of the past. The legendary muscle cars of the 60s and 70s were more than just steel, rubber, and glass. They were the product of a specific time and place in American history, a moment when gasoline was cheap, the roads were wide, and anything seemed possible. They changed history by proving that a car could be an extension of the driver's personality. They turned the act of driving into an emotional experience. From the first rumble of the Rocket 88 to the swan song of the Hemi Cuda, these cars defined an era. They pushed the boundaries of engineering and captured the imagination of the world. They taught us that there is a certain kind of soul in a machine that is built for nothing but the pure, unadulterated joy of going fast. Even now, decades after the last original muscle car rolled off